Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee, your true crime dyslexic armchair detective. I say dyslexic because you'll see why. All right, so tonight is Tuesday, January 17th. Our true crime today, we've got a really sad update on the Athena Brownfield case. Sad, but also justice can now take place. We've got an update on the Brian Walsh case. There's new, shall we say, gossipy true crime grapevine info on the Idaho 4 case. We're going to talk about it. It reminds me a lot of when we started this case. We have an update on the Murdoch case that is going to trial next week, right? That's very soon on the 23rd. A surprise from the prosecution. I'll tell you all about that. I got a tip from a local who sent me a local newspaper down there that had some things to say about, let's just say, changing up the roster. Might not be so good for Dick Harpootlian. We also have just a little bit of news about the Aiden Fucci, Tristan Bailey case. Really sad unaliving case that took place in May of 2021. A teen inexplicably unalived by stabbing his friend from school that lived in his neighborhood. And anyways, it's going to trial, and we have some news about that. And then we have an active trial case going on that is in the preliminary phase of the adjudication. And we'll talk about that. There's some validable stuff that we can talk about tomorrow, and I'll probably have to do a specific about the Miglietti case because there is a lot to do. But I'm going to give you a overview about what went on today and what we can likely expect. Okay, so on the True Crime Grapevine, by the way, hi. If you're new here, I am somebody who watches and listens to everything true crime during the day. And I used to do an update once a week, and it was taking like 7 to 8 cases, and it took like 3 hours to do the whole thing. It was a really long upload. So now I'm trying to do just a upload that sort of skims everything we talked about during the week on Sundays. But Monday through Friday, I'm going to do a live and tell you what sort of went on today. In case you'd just like to have a quick catch up, I'm going to try to keep this about 45 minutes. Starting about 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which I think I'm still screwed up about how many hours behind us California is, the West Coast. But in California, you're probably driving on a highway somewhere. So maybe if you'd like somebody to keep you company, I can be a girl. All right. Here's what we're going to do. I always start with, this is my nightly nightcap. What do I have? One of, my previous streams, Suzanne recommended flavored whiskey, and she said, put it in your coffee. So I'm going to first, though, do a shot of it. It is this vanilla flavored Crown Royal. I have an interesting history with Crown Royal. I'm gonna just first taste it by itself. Let's see what it tastes like. Let me take off these little reading glasses. Oh, I can smell it. Ooh. Okay. Smoother than just plain whiskey. Oh, there it comes though. Oh, making the whiskey face. All right. Better in something. So I have coffee with another shot in it. 2 shots is my limit. Decaf, sort of although, back in the day, I used to shoot whiskey and then have a Coke to wash out the whiskey taste, because I liked the way it felt. It was quick and I could count exactly how much I was drinking, which seemed like both economically and sort of ethically responsible about drinking. And I will tell you though, what I didn't know I was doing, it was before the days of Red Bull, which since I'm backwards in my head, literally. I'm left-handed, I'm dyslexic, and I'm hyperactive. So things, I have a counter reaction. There's a word for it, and that's not it. It's not counter reaction, but it's like antithetical to a regular reaction. There's a medical term for it. You don't care. Um, anyway, Red Bull makes with that taurine, whatever makes people hyper on Red Bull makes me tired. Isn't that weird? But caffeine does the regular thing. So what's very interesting is I was accidentally like doing a Red Bull drinking. I'd shoot whiskey, but drink then a whole Coke. So I was keeping awake, but I was getting a little buzz on. Anyways, not that you need to do that. Not that I'm recommending that. Sorry. Who wants a wide awake drunk? That's not fun. But if you're only going to do, you limit yourself. 3, I think, is the magic number for a whole entire night. 6 if you're out for a really long time and you're not driving. I don't recommend it though. But 3 is the magic number. So, speaking of someone who we thought was 3, but really was 4, first case, Athena Brownfield from Cereal, Oklahoma. We started talking about this case last week because she was found wandering. Her sister, was found wandering on Tuesday. And so we had been sort of keeping up with what was going on. And she was living with caretakers. We now know it is her mother's cousin, Alyssa Adams. And like I said, it's not the Adams family. Da, 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 da. It's more of like, dun, 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 dun. Not good. This Adams family, not a family you want to be around. And now today we found out even more. So we did find out that Athena's sister was found wandering last Tuesday. Then she said she didn't know where her little baby sister was. Come to find out, the family had 4 children, and the mother and father were estranged at the time. Maybe they were estranged because of what happened on Christmas. Now we know. I think Alyssa, the cousin who took custody of these 2 girls from her cousin. So, 2 first cousins. The girl's mother is first cousin to Alyssa Adams, who had custody of them. She gave custody of her 2 little girls to Alyssa and Alyssa's husband, Ivan, and this is interesting. It wasn't official through the courts. So we don't have a date. And they say about 1.5 years to 2 years ago. Why does that matter? Well, interestingly, the sister, Adina, is 5 and should have been in school. She's never been in school. But guess what? They also never have been to the doctor. So we're not sure exactly over 1.5 years to 2 years what went on that house, but we could make an educated guess that there was neglect and perhaps abuse. Why do I say that? Well, today we found out that they did find the body of Athena. Yesterday, I had reported that people in the area were saying that there were, and sheriffs around this retention pond on a property that previously Ivan Adams had owned in Grady County. So today we find out in Grady County on a property that the Adams used to own, not in the pond per se. It just said actually that remains were found of a child. They have to test them to see if it is a girl and if it's Athena. And you'd think, well, it's only been like a week or so. Why do they have to test? Well, now we know, and we think it's Alyssa who dropped a dime on Ivan. On Christmas, apparently, he beat to death Athena. And I'm not going to describe it to you. You can look it up. It is gruesome. It is considering she was known to be very shy. She was not really verbal. She looked small for her age. We know she wasn't taken to a doctor. She looked small for her age. We know she wasn't taken to a doctor. We know that she was, I mean, a nonverbal child who's tiny, under, 4, 3. On Christmas night, he allegedly, according to a witness, which we're assuming is Alyssa because of it's intimated that it's her. And then there are phone pings that he traveled in the early morning hours to this old property they had in Grady County. And it was reported that he buried her on this fence line, which is near the retention pond. I am guessing, that's my assumption, but it, you know, is exactly where they were looking yesterday. So this is horrific for the grandparent, Pammy Brownfield, for the mom and dad. We don't know why the biological parents gave up custody to the Adams. I mean, I'm assuming the cousin trusted her cousin. I'm assuming she has some sort of issue. It reminds me of JJ Vallow. His mom was addicted to drugs. They needed, his grandmother was helping, but the uncle adopted with Lori Vallow, JJ. Also reminds me of the West case. Trezell and Jacqueline West. Now, they adopted children through the courts. They had two of their own, I believe, biological, had adopted two more, and then adopted the West boys, so adopted four altogether. And they did not report the West boys not being with them. And they seem to have moved to Bakersfield, California, or California City from Bakersfield without them. But at the time, we didn't know that. They reported them missing from California City. And then it came out, at least it's alleged, that they were unalived before the family even ever moved there. And then they had to come up with a story about where the children were. So I don't know why people take other people's children to raise and try to help, and then seem to turn against that child and unalive them. What's really scary is what I said yesterday, is that Alyssa Adams apparently had TikTok. She was an influencer with 2,000 followers on TikTok, but that's how she saw herself. She did a lot of lip syncing and being cute because she was young, and attractive. Apparently, on other social media, she talked about being a mom, showed her four children. You never saw the other two. So it's very much a weird, like, Cinderella case where these two kids are there, but nobody knows. They don't talk about them. And then we know that Adina, on that Tuesday, January 10th, was found wandering, saying, "They left me." We know that on the 7th and the 8th, Alyssa was in Oklahoma City, an hour away, on a date, an overnight date, going to shows, saying how much she loved her new boy toy. I mean, now, was she acting out because apparently this had happened at Christmas? Is that what estranged them? Is that when Ivan ran to um, Arizona, where he was then captured? He's got a $1 million cash bond, and he's being extradited back to Oklahoma. Isn't that horrible? That's a bad one. Kids are always bad. All right. I said I'd tell you about the Idaho chitter chatter. What's everybody talking about? Okay, we know that we aren't going to hear anything. There's a gag order on attorneys, on both attorneys, on the courts. Anybody involved legally is not supposed to be chitter chattering. But somehow people had a source. What was the source? Apparently, this source said that Brian tried to contact at least one of the roommates on Instagram, and people had reported that he was following their accounts. I don't know if that was confirmed by law enforcement, but that has already been known. But this source said that Brian's account was DMing, and if that's direct messaging through Instagram, one of the girls and asking, like going, "Hey, how are you?" Just trying to get some interaction. Now, the DM was not, if you know anything about Instagram, if someone's not a follower or you're not following them, it's not mutual. They can't just contact you. They can send you a message, but then you have to decide to open it or not. This message was not opened. So who knew all about this? I will give you 3 guesses. Who wants to make a guess? Now, I think he targeted Xana. Could it be Xana? It could. But if we think historically, who is the family who is always the source? Who is the family who is putting out information? I would guess, I would put $1,000,000 that it's the Gonsalves family. It's either Olivia or Steven, the dad of Kaylee, saying that he tried to contact Kaylee. I mean, they were the ones telling us a lot of information. And I would not be surprised that the court would put the families as part of the gag order if this continues. Because this doesn't, here's the thing, to the true crime community who are insatiable about this case, any little thing is a big deal. And everybody is trying to do whatever they can because it's clicks. The other thing that everybody just like, oh, we talked about yesterday, he's an incel, he was jealous, he did it because of this reason, he did it. If it is Brian, the thing is, if you look into what serial killers think, they're not like you and I. It's not logical. It's not like, oh, he wanted these people, therefore he couldn't have them, so he killed them. That's more like a typical jealousy rage, like we'll be talking about in the Aiden Fucci, Tristan Bailey case, or the Brian Walsh, Anna Walsh case. I mean, when people can't have who they want or who they have is going to leave them, we see often a act where Larry Miliete accused of doing that with Maya, who is trying to leave him. That is typical. Even the incel thing we talked about, or I talked about it at length in one of my, I don't know if it was the upload or in the live, but incels black pill themselves. You don't call somebody an incel. It's not like we go, hey, look at that loser. He's not getting any play. He must be involuntary celibate. I mean, you might as well just say you're a nerd, you're a loser, just using another name for things that people have been called since time began. That's not what that philosophy, and it's a movement, and it comes from the people themselves who have decided they are incelibate men. They have a certain way of philosophy of seeing the world. They have signed on for this. So just calling somebody an incel isn't how that word should be used. And I don't know. Oh, there's also some chitter chatter that Brian had an Asian friend, maybe not girlfriend, but a friend who was a girl, that a roommate is saying he saw him with this girl. He saw him the day of the murders or the day right after, and he seemed normal. That is new. Again, but it's scuttlebutt. I don't know that's true. It wasn't confirmed by any, legal source. Of course, they're not confirming anything because there's a gag order, but who knows? Again, take everything with a grain of salt. In a case is hot like this, people are going to make up stuff. And I'm hoping that anybody listening to the True Crime Grapevine is a little more critically thinking and reasoning person. They not only confirm what is a good hypothesis, but they seek to disconfirm. They look at the other side and say, Well, but like, what don't we know that could explain this? Perhaps. And what do we need to wait for? And the fact that we're only seeing the prosecution side right now, and we're seeing stuff leaked out from the family of a victim, and victims we know are looking for justice and they are in pain. And we don't want to victim shame. But again, take everything with a grain of salt. I don't know if Brian was DMing anybody, and I don't know if he had a Asian American or Asian girlfriend. We don't know. The only thing we do know is he seemed to be in the area a lot. His car seemed to be in the area a lot. He seems like a strange dog, which like that feeds into that prejudice of, oh, he's an incel. He hasn't called himself that. Incels call themselves that. It's part of the philosophy of being an incel. So I'm not sure what it would even mean if he DMs somebody. Again, I don't know where we go with this until we get more information. And it's probably going to be until June. So just take everything that you're hearing with a grain of salt because people are really desperate. All right, the Brian Walsh, Anna Walsh. What's going on there? Hey, Brian Walsh is now being charged with murder of Anna Walsh. So he was being held for lying to police and trying to like derail their investigation. What I think happened is we've had all the DNA come back from the knife that was the bent knife and the blood found in the basement, and then all the items found probably from the dumpster that was at his mom's house because they found it at the Peabody trash. What did they call it? A transfer station. Maybe it was the one that was south of there, but they found like a hacksaw, bloody towels. I'm assuming all that blood has now been typed and matched to Anna Walsh. So they're making, and he also, it was confirmed now, as we suspected, and I had said before, that the scuttlebutt was he was not the one to report her missing. Her job reported her missing. So it's kind of a tale as old as time, right? Unfortunately, she was getting wise to this guy's fraud. He is going to go to jail. She was making another life in Washington. She hadn't always worked there. That was like within the year, more recent. She was going to make a move, and he wasn't an idiot. And he knew he was up for his sentencing on the Warhol fraud. He knew that he had a history of defrauding his dad, like trying to change the will and grab everything and sell everything. And prior to that, he had a falling out with his dad because he was doing a Lennox house deal, and instead he just took the cashier's check and took off. And reportedly, he was committed for 6 to 7 years at a private residential mental institution and found to be a sociopath. Is he? I can't say for sure. That's all alleged. But in my opinion, he meets a lot of the criteria for a sociopath. One of the very big things that everybody noticed was when he was first arrested for slowing down or derailing the investigation, he smiled. He's all in, prison garb. They're walking him out, doing the perp walk, and he's like grinning ear to ear, like, hey, hi. That's not normal. Even if you didn't do anything, you'd be scared and you're upset because where's your wife? You wouldn't be smiling at that point. It wasn't like just a nervous one. It was a big grin. Sociopath confirmed if the rest of it comes true. So I'm just saying we don't know for sure. So we will be looking for his preliminary hearing on murder charges next. They still haven't found her entire body. He obviously did what he Googled. He had Googled dismemberment of a woman, 115 pounds. That's what she weighed. So this doesn't seem so much of a mystery as just a very sad tale of, similar to other women, looks like she was going to get out and didn't make it. Really sad. All right. Um, the Murdaugh murders. Alec Murdaugh is going on trial January 23rd for the murder of his wife Maggie and his son Paul at the property Moselle, their hunting lodge. So, what's the big news? I should probably look. I will read this one actually to you. I was sent an article from, I believe the newspaper, the local newspaper in Columbia is called The State. Hold on a second. It's in my, sent to me by a local attorney in the area. All right. So it reads, a veteran murder trial prosecutor is hired by the South Carolina Attorney General. Now, this is a week before they're going to trial. It is interesting that they are changing up their roster. So Creighton Waters is the DA in charge of the trial, but they're bringing in this heavy hitter. Why is it important? Well, one of the things is that this man, his name is John, I was going to say Meadows. It's John Meadors. It's Meadors. John Meadors. He's 60 now. He has a great reputation as a homicide prosecutor, and he has beaten Jim Harpootlian in court when Jim was representing, wait for it, a high-powered attorney who had gotten into trouble for murder. So apparently, this other lawyer had been at a strip club, as one does, right? We're not going to judge, but what we are going to judge is he got thrown out of the strip club and he decided to unalive the manager with a gun. And even though the good old boy network is alive and well in South Cackalack, especially this was, I believe, in 2007. Yes, in 2007, he was part of the prosecution against Columbia attorney Devin Herring, Dwayne, Dewain, Dwayne Herring, who shot a strip club manager for throwing him out of the strip club. And I'm not going to say allegedly because he got a conviction. It didn't take very long for him to get the conviction, and Jim Harpootlian was the person representing this attorney Herring. Now, if you've been paying attention, there's some differences, though, between these two situations. This is not as clear-cut as somebody unaliving and shooting a manager that threw them out of the club. That's like a cause and effect. There's witnesses. It's in a public place, direct action. I am sure his excuse was like he was drunk. He wasn't in control of his faculties. It was a crime of passion, blah, blah, blah. Not the same as in the Murdaugh case, where we know Alec had a lot of financial problems. We know it seemed to involve some organized crime, really, drug dealing. We know that it was causing financial issues, and that with Mallory Beach case, that they were going to look at they were going to see his financials, and that was going to blow the whole lid off all his financial crimes. But we don't know exactly what happened at Moselle, and it's not as clear-cut as this other case. So I personally think that they brought in this high-power attorney because they need someone to take down Dick. They need someone who has beaten Dick Harpootlian and is similarly flamboyant. They call him, he was described as arguing in a homespun manner, like Dick Carpathian, like talking directly to South Carolinians in the Low Country. I'm one of you. Let me tell you the story. Not acting like I'm a lawyer telling you what, you know what I mean? Talking to them as one of them. I think that getting this guy at the last minute probably had something to do with the fact that there are some issues with the prosecution case. Number one, the main thing is they did use evidence in a consumptive test without letting the defense make, like, be aware, be there, see it, like we're seeing in the Vallow case. In the Vallow case I talked about yesterday, they had an extra hair. They the podcast A Murderous Heart is JJ Vallow's aunt. I'm sorry, Tylee Ryan aunt. So a relative of one of the children who were unalived by Lori and Chad, allegedly. And she did first analytics, meaning like analytic, like being analytical. And she does a lot with statistics. And she really goes, this is this and this and this. And she shows you all her correlations and really is very logical. She's got timelines galore. It's a lot of data, very data rich. She thinks that the hair that they're talking about in the Vallow case that they want to do consumptive testing on was a hair that they always had, that it's a hair that was stuck to the duct tape that was around JJ. That's her assumption. We don't know that as a fact. But I will tell you, in the Vallow case, they are taking things slow. It's been 3 years. On the other hand, they are making sure that they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's, and they're not just doing testing and going, well, you know, sorry about your luck, like you were in the mental institution being, you know, brought back to competency. We had to do testing. Too bad for you. They're not doing that. So they're like covering all their bases to be super fair. Now, in South Carolina, they had Alex's shirt and they did a test to it that destroyed it, a consumptive test, and they didn't show it to somebody else. They also then got an expert to look at the shirt. The expert had one opinion, then they thought that the person should look at it again, and they actually, to keep chain of custody, took the shirt and had the person look at it again, and he came up with a slightly different finding that was more in line with Alex did it. I don't know, but I'd like to know more about that. And I think that's why they're bringing in a more high-powered attorney for the prosecution to sort of shore up the problems that they've little had before, which is fine. It's going to be very interesting, and that starts January 23rd. All right. So we had one quick update on the Tristan Bailey, Aiden Fucci case. If you don't know, in Florida, in May of 2021, in fact, she was found on Mother's Day, a 13-year-old girl who lived in the same neighborhood and went to school with, her name is Tristan Bailey, went to school with Aiden Fucci, lived down the street from him. They were seen on doorbell cameras, like Nest cameras. They were seen at night walking down towards this wooded area in their neighborhood. And then in a little bit, you only see Tristan sort of coming back by himself, kind of fast. Very interestingly, his mom, they had cameras in the house for security, I guess. And you could see her in the laundry room washing his jeans. And I don't know if it's when the police showed up or the police were showing up or they were there. Anyway, she was basically trying to get rid of the blood in his jeans. And she was charged for trying to destroy evidence. But this isn't a real like whodunit or a lot of, I mean, he still has the presumption of innocence. The biggest factor is that he was 14, just turned 14, I believe, and she was 13 at the time this crime is committed. And because he's so young, he is not eligible for the death penalty for a capital case. It is still first degree murder. And the filing today was that the court wants it to be a jury of 6, which it does, I guess, meet the specifications for a smaller jury. But that means they only have to convince 6 people instead of 12. Again, there's a lot of visual evidence, which I don't know how you're going to tell people, that they have lying eyes. I mean, he was with the girl. He came back without the girl. The girl was found where they were walking to. The next day, Mother's Day, stabbed to death. And then the mom's caught trying to get blood out of his jeans. It just all seems horrible. I don't know what his mitigating circumstances are. We will hear more. It's just really it's a waste of all these lives. Very sad. That case has a pretrial hearing. It goes in February, and I think January 20th. There's going to be, February 6th is when the trial is set for, and there'll be a pretrial hearing January 20th. So this just been a response, this asking for the 6th jury was by the state, and we don't have the response yet from the defense. All right. So, and the last case to talk about tonight is the Maya Miliete unaliving by the suspect is her husband, Larry. There was no court anywhere yesterday because it was Martin Luther King Day. So today, it was the 4th day of his preliminary hearing. So you remember that means it's the hearing to see if he's going to be bound over for a trial. And the big thing is they don't have a body yet, but they have lots of evidence. And today her dad was on the stand, and then another friend and other people that knew her. And the whole explanation from everybody is, number one, when the family went over there, Larry would say, oh, she's in a room. And then he had a key to her room, which was weird, I guess, because Maya at that time was in the bedroom by herself. She worked in the room. She did a lot of singing on the guitar and put that up on the internet. She stayed in that room. And so her dad said it was very odd that Larry had the key for it. He was saying, she's in there. That's where she is. And he's like, he pounded on the door. She didn't answer. So the dad's like, well, can you get in there? And he's like, produces that key, gets in there, and oh, she's not in there. What a surprise. But he said she was in there. So that's odd. And then the dad describes like how it looks like the bed was made as if nobody had slept in it. This was still at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And supposedly, according to Larry, she had left really early. And her dad was, she said if she left really early, she never she wasn't one to make the bed. So that was odd. And then he had said she was in there. She's not in there. He doesn't seem too surprised, but then all of a sudden he goes, oh, there's a credit card missing from her desk. And if you remember when I talked about this case last week, her sister and her brother had reported that even though she made $150,000 a year, Larry controlled all the money. So suddenly she's got this credit card. But, he had said, Maya's in this room. She's not in this room. The dad's like, well, where the hell is she? I mean, he didn't say that. But he did find it weird that Larry didn't try to call her then. Like, okay, so she's not in this room. You said she was in this room. Aren't you shocked and surprised? So a lot of all of Larry's actions prior to this happening, he was asking his father-in-law, the person who was on the stand today, just like he had asked his sister-in-law and brother-in-law, what can I do to get her back? What can I do? I don't know what to do. I need advice about Maya. And can you tell her to stay married to me? And they were high school sweethearts, and she seemed to have outgrown him. And he just got more and more and more, allegedly, according to witnesses, but this is allegedly, possessive, controlling, to the point, where he was calling spellcasters to at first make Maya fall back in love with him, and then it turned into, can you hurt her? I'm going to do just an upload specifically about this Maliete case, but we will continue. I fully expect this to be bound over for trial, but we have more preliminary hearings, and I'll let you know about that, what happens tomorrow. So, that is what I have for you today. So the big things, again, I don't know about the whole Idaho 4 chit chat about who's calling who and who tried to. I mean, I don't know why a source is telling People Magazine anything when there's a gag order. It doesn't help the case. If we want to get the guy, if he's the guy, then you need to ensure that things are done by the book and you don't ruin the jury pool. Of course, it can be very hard for family to wait. And then the Athena Brownfield we talked about, she has been found unalived, and apparently the cousin who had custody is now talking, probably to save her own skin, because it was, she claims, her husband who beat and killed little Athena and then buried it on their old property. Christmas Day. Isn't that nice? And there seems to be pings showing that he went back to that area. So I'm sure he's going to blame it on her. We'll hear more about that. That we're still in this is just the investigative phase. Brian Walsh is now been charged with murder. He was already in custody, but now he's charged with the murder of Anna Walsh. They still haven't found her body, but I believe they found tons of biological evidence. And usually if you have enough of that, you can say the person wouldn't be alive, losing this much blood, etc. And yeah, then we have the interesting thing of a new prosecutor entering very last minute. The state is changing up their roster. They've got a new star coming in off the bench, 60-year-old John Moden, Meador, like Meadows, but Meadors. And he's supposed to he's already beat Jim Harpootlian once, and it was when he was representing a rich attorney. So hopefully, if the evidence is there to show that Alex did it, so it's all alleged. I mean, they need somebody who can close this one down. This is going to be very interesting. So let me know what you think about these cases. Let me know what you think about the chitter chatter about BCK, about Brian Kohlberger. And do you think he had a Asian girlfriend? Do you think that would matter? Do you think that he really did try to contact these girls? And who do you think was the source? Love to hear it. Anyways, it would really help if anybody out there is watching this on replay, if you could give it a thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe and hit the bell so you know when I upload. I will be going live Monday through Friday about 9 Eastern Standard Time, p.m., to tell you what happened during the day. And then I will be taping some uploads on the weekend and upload a little bit like a recap of what happened during the week on Sunday. All right. Let me know if you want to hear any cases, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Happy Tuesday.